Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Karen Cho, anchor of Squawk Box Europe on CNBC, and it's such a pleasure to be here with you today. Now, let me just take you back over history. I remember being here a few years back, and we were asking all the usual questions: outlook, geopolitics, macro challenges, what lies ahead, real helicopter view. We started interviewing leaders from Asian businesses, and they started fleshing out to us this storytelling about how they were dealing with this thing called COVID, that genuine cases on the ground, highly contagious. And of course, we all know what transpired after that. We went into lockdown weeks and months later across other countries. We, of course, started talking about COVID vaccines. And fast forward, we were talking about apps to track some of the virus and the pandemic, who had had vaccines, who hadn't. Vaccine certificates went online. And of course, we saw stretched healthcare systems also pivot, trying to use their resources through digital technology. It was a new dawn for the industry, being at the forefront of capitalism. I can tell you that we certainly saw private and public money pivot into this space. But fast forward to 2025, what happened to that momentum? Where is it? Healthcare systems, governments we know are trying to put a lid on fiscal spending, so you would think there would be appetite, motivation for digital as a solution. Does AI bring fresh opportunities in 2025? Well, I know the World Economic Forum's Centre for Health and Healthcare has been hard at work on this issue with the Digital Healthcare Transformation Initiative, and there's plenty on this that you can read online. But let me introduce you to your panellists, because we do have terrific speakers. Apparently, they've spent most of Davos together, so they're going to have a lot of insights to share with us. I'm pleased to welcome to the stage Shobhana Kamineni, who is the Executive Chairperson, Apollo Health Company. Thank you all so much for joining us here for this Cracking the Code of Digital Health session. To Shobhana, because the Indian market, where you have a large footprint, fascinating, because in the private sector there are pockets of encouragement, as Roy points out. So Apollo Hospitals is the largest for-profit hospital in India. You've been integrating digital and AI into your healthcare ecosystem across hospitals and improving access, telemedicine, for instance, some of the technology you have. Now, too often, the public sector lags the private sector when it comes to digital. How does public health adopt some of the initiatives that you're rolling out already through your health system?
Well, basically, seeing that Enrico and Roy were here on this panel, I kind of threw out everything that I had prepared for this, in terms of what our hospital does, because it's there. Hospital systems now who can have the access, who have the people, the technology, the engineers, and the finances, can actually bring the best to bear for their patient. So let's move that on one side, and then and bring this conversation, like we do at Apollo all the time. We bring it back to the patient, or we bring it back to the consumer. So how is AI really going to help you all? And then you can forget whether it's the government that gives it to you, or a private, or whoever gives it to you. You will consume it in the way that you find most trustworthy, because at some point people realize that they'll have to pay for healthcare, whether you have some amount of insurance, or you'll find ways. So you do that. Or the country itself. We moved, in India from 1% of spending on healthcare to 2%. And it was a big shift for people to do for a developing country. Of course, the US, it's 15%. So governments really do spend money. And I think what AI will help, if you look at it from the customer point of view, if we just look at the customer, first, I believe that we are not the only providers for you all, for a customer. A customer will go to Google, will go to Amazon, will go to all these who are also healthcare providers. Apple. So your watch is probably your best. And these are the ones who are redefining what healthcare can mean for you, because it has to be about you. It has to be able to predict earlier. It has to be able to give you the right nudges. And these are all the language that we learned ever since AI came into play. With that, we had a different language of fear and urgency when it was COVID, and then people came. So that was one, that you need it when you need it. But there's also this language now of how can I stay better, how can I stay well, live longer, And all this is what AI has been teaching you. And there's where you're consuming it, and you're going back to healthcare systems and saying, we don't trust you, you're not doing enough, you're too expensive. And so we've come back and said, we got to solve for this. How can we scale? How can we make sure? So now I have 22 million people on my app with this, and we're sending them nudges with this. So, because in India you can build beds, but it won't be enough. How do you keep 1.5 billion people, healthy? And I think these are the conversations that we have fantastic partnerships. One is with WEF, that we did this Edison Alliance. And we just we used, with American Towers, we had digital dispensaries. And we could map people's healthcare that, so women who didn't want to go to a healthcare center were coming, or digitally. So they were consuming. So this is a sector that is really left out in many countries, especially India. Another thing is, and I can go on, but let me close it by saying the cost of looking after them for preventive healthcare was $8 for us in India. It was $8 for the year for testing, for keeping their records, and for giving them basic medication. So I think that this is a huge, this is a solution for the disease burden of the world. So I'm bringing it back, front and center to the patient.
It's an incredible number on the cost of healthcare. It's fascinating. The infrastructure will be very key here and what impact it has. Shobana, do you want to touch on that? What the US is doing, stepping out of the WHO, but building its infrastructure and technology. Does that have an impact, leaving a big divide between, say, the United States and India?
I hope there's no pandemic in the next 4 years or any critical major event. But having said that, I think that WHO does play an important role in unifying. But I don't think it is the only thing that it's not going to take down, make or break India's healthcare system, frankly. So it helps to be, we like to be part of bigger networks. It helps in that aspect. I don't think that we're at a stage that we depend on them.
Well, thank you all for taking that question. I want to talk more about enablers. And Roy, if I can come to you, we know it's not enough just to have good technology. If you lack the capital, you lack the incentive scheme, it's skewed towards short-term profit, for instance, switching costs. And of course, we saw that with even just digital health records. There was switching nightmare because a lot of medical systems just didn't want to pay for that upfront cost of switching medical records online. Data can be transported, no matter what it is, whether it's driver's licenses, whether it's healthcare, identity. That is a fascinating point, that data could be transported by the patient. Does anyone else want to come in on that?
So I kind of agree with you, but I think that just giving data freely to you guys, unless you're in partnership with us. So there has to be constructs of good partnerships. I mean, we've done some great things with you all. You can build better algorithms when you have the right, when you're working as partnerships. If you're just going to let all your data out, you don't know what will happen with it, the hallucinations, all that, there's there's patient safety, there's this thing that data belongs to the patient. And so all those, we come up with ethical issues. So it's not that simple that you can just let data flow freely. This will be regulated. It'll always be a challenge. But I think what we now see is really good partnerships because, just imagine that we did a project with Google, just like you did, what you had explained, that you can, that they can actually look and see, they can see if a patient has TB way ahead using digital tools. So then you can take it out to large population because so many people in India are vulnerable to tuberculosis, and that's dangerous, because of the antibiotic usage. So for that aspect, these are the things that you can come and collaborate on. So yes, I do think that the data is important, should flow, but not that freely. True.
Shobana, let me come to you on some solutions. Avenues here for possible solutions, international collaboration, partnerships between healthcare and tech. What are some of the solutions you see here?
That when, these are the collaborations that will bring together the best because it can't be done just with the hospital system. But when you collaborate with, whether it's, we just opened in the state of Andhra Pradesh, in my father's village, we have a medical college, and the University of Leicester just came day before yesterday, and we have a center of innovation with this. So I think that's something that AI can do, that it's not about a geography. You can put it there, you can get these collaborations together, and these partnerships don't need to be this high-end exclusive in bubbles, but we need to put more of them around the world. And the more that we have, the more that people that you'll get those. And I agree that you can't expect more than what a doctor does, but a better perspective actually a conjunct to what you said, is that the reason that we did our clinical intelligence engine is because, when you go to doctors, each one will have a different interpretation sometimes, and to get there. So what we can do is that 80% of it, if AI can actually smoothen the process for a patient, it actually makes their life so much easier, understandable. And then that 20% has to be done by a doctor. The validation has to be done by a doctor. It makes him more productive. He can do more cases, and the cost comes down for that particular doctor visit. And the third part of it is that it just gives a much better experience, because then everything is there. That instead of a doctor, the 15 minutes he would have spent earlier, this actually makes it so much better.
Right.
So.
Shobhana, thank you very much. We are running out of time, so I just want to whip around the panel and get some action here, some takeaway. Based on everything we've just discussed here, if there's one thing that you feel should be done between public and private collaboration in the next 12 months to advance what we're talking about here, digital health on a global or regional scale, what would it be? You've got 30 to 40. Shobhana.
I'd go all in reskilling, upskilling, and teaching with this in the next 12 months, if I had that, because that wave is going to come. For us to seize that moment, we need to have multiple people who can actually take charge of this. So skilling, reskilling, super important.